Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Welcome to our third episode of Scripting the Book. And we have a special guest with us today. I'm going to let everybody go around. We're going to start with our guest co-host for today, and we'll whip around. And if Natalie's not back, then we'll get to her. You guys know
Well, I'm
Natalie.
audio-wise.
Oh, audio, she's here. Awesome. You're great.
Okay, my name is Zara Hoffman. I'm the self-published author of 6 books, a young adult paranormal romance trilogy and a new adult sci-fi romance trilogy, but I will be genre hopping, age category hopping, whatever. I'm an author-tuber who sometimes remembers to post content, but does stream almost every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We did this morning, and Nia was a guest on mine. And yeah, that's mainly it.
Ben, you can go next.
Sure. I'm Ben. I post weekly videos on Monday nights as Running to Write. So please join in and watch those videos. Watch that great content. I'm working on my debut novel. I feel bad because I keep forgetting to mention this, but I'm also doing the self-publishing tips and tricks with SD Houston, who's in the chat right now, and Morgan Lee, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. But that is a lot of fun too. We got a couple of episodes that come out on the 15th of every month. And I have big things coming up for my channel, so that'll be coming out within the next month or so. So subscribe and keep watching.
Yes.
Nice. So I am Natalie Locke. All the background noise you hear is because I'm making lunch for my daughter and her friend who spent the night. My son already ate, so I had one kid down. I just forgot about the other two. And that's pretty much a good snapshot of my life as I just passion, well, we'll call it passion, but it's love-hate, with writing along with a full-time job, being a mom and a wife and somebody who is looking for the fork. Where's the fork? Oh, there it is. Okay. And this is what I do for multitasking. What else? On my channel, you can find my process with querying, which right now is the waiting game, waiting for people to email me the rejection or not email me at all as a form of rejection. And then I will try to manifest this, and I will say positive things of maybe I'll get an email that someone does want to read more about the story. And I also got other stories with alpha readers, and I'm doing an entire Flash Vixen series right now. So that's my life.
Yes, I was gonna say, don't forget the February Flash Fiction. So much fun. I'm terrible.
on TikTok too.
Yeah,
I'm trying that, and I had fun with the one I posted last night. I'm kind of hoping it goes off, but it's also a reel on Instagram. But I'm writer lock on both. But if you look for it, it's my latest post, and it's funny. It deals with Disney a little bit, so I had fun with it.
Yes, and hello, and thank you to everybody who has come to join us for the next hour to an hour and a half. We are going to be talking Bridgerton season 1. The book is The Duke and I. So we're doing our first. Well, the last one was romance, but it was that fantasy. It was a lot of fun. This one is true romance genre, 100%. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. We have some banners. I'll be popping them up. You guys let me know in the chat. Did you read the book? Did you watch the series? Did you do both? What were your overall thoughts? And if you guys want to go ahead and let me know overall feedback. What did you think about the Bridgerton, The Duke and I versus the show? And we can start with our guest. It's fine.
Okay, I was like, I don't know if there's an order. I got thoughts, obviously, which is why I'm here. But okay, in general, I like the show better than the book. It shows a lot more of the Bridgerton family at once. The book's epilogue completely spoils like the next 4 in the series.
Oh yeah.
So don't read that if you want to be surprised. But I think that the show handled the different characters a lot better. I liked the addition of the prince. I liked the addition of the queen. Lady Danbury just became so much better and doesn't like only become like really important in the fourth book like she does in the book series. So I just like the integration of the world, like the characters in the world better, because it's I don't know, it just feels better. Because while I love the romance genre, my favorite part of a book is, and this sounds bad, it's not that the main couple isn't good, because otherwise I wouldn't be reading the book, but like the people around them always makes the book for me, if that makes sense. So the show did that much better than the book. There is one thing that I'm very mad at the show for doing, because it completely changes the book in a way that I don't think should have been done. And it's the problematic scene in episode 5.
Yeah, that's a good way to call it. We'll call it the problematic scene, because it was done differently.
I don't know if is it episode 6 or episode 5? No, it's not.
I think
4,
it's 5.
because
it's 5. It's 5.
It's the end of 5, I think. Yeah, because episode 6 is when they're all pissed at each other, and then no, are there 7 or 8 episodes? I'm now blanking.
There's 8.
Okay.
Wait, are we talking about the one where right before,
that is
like, at the
episode
very
7.
end, she says, "I burn for you," and then
No. So
no.
Oh.
It's episode 7.
So they get together in
there's an issue
episode
with
4,
consent.
which is an affair of honor. Then episode 5 is called The Duke and I, where they have to fight to get married, and they have their wedding night. And then episode 6 is called Swish, where it's the Taylor Swift instrumental of Wildest Dreams montage. And then the end of that episode is when she realized that she's been duped, does the very questionable thing. And then in episode 7, everyone's pissed at each other. Episode 8 is when, so at the end of episode 6, the questionable thing happens, and the show does it in a way that you could be like, I mean, her actions are bad, but her motivations are okay. And that's like even a thing that Lady Whistledown says, can such wretched means ever justify? Oh,
okay, now I'm on the same page. I finally realized what you're talking about.
Right. Can anything ever justify such wretched means? I think that's the Lady Whistledown quote that is over everyone crying and being miserable and things like that because of all their different drama.
Because I think Miss Thompson's thing came out at around the same time too.
Yeah.
And so it was like one of those dual storyline.
Yes. And then in the book, so a trigger warning. In the book, it is straight up marital rape, because he's so drunk that he can't consent. He
was also unconscious at the start.
Exactly. So
we'll call it non-consent. This is a non-consent situation.
So, but the people have debated, and it's not a debate. I will say that right now. I don't think it's debatable that this can exist in a marriage. And people who say otherwise are wrong, and I will fight them. But in the show, it still is, because he's not consenting to that part, that conclusion,
a specific part of it. Yeah.
Right. So, and reminder, consent can be withdrawn at any point.
Apologies, guys. The reason why we're being a little bit vague, not because we mean to be vague, but because I'm a small monetized channel, so I'm currently have to watch what I say.
Yeah, I'm sorry I said the thing, so
it's okay. I think in the context it'll be fine. If I get a review, I'll get a review on it. But I think
it'll be like a human, and they'll realize that it's
So exactly.
But anyway, so that in the show, it seems a lot less serious, and a lot more people are like, "Go, Daphne! You deserve that. This is what you wanted. He took away your chance to have that with the prince because of because during the duel, I'm like, it's not battle. During the duel, he's like, oh, you deserve to have a life with kids. And it's like, well, now I can't marry the prince even if I wanted to, because you compromised me, although it was a joint effort anyway. It's like people were very pro Daphne in the show, and it's just like what she did is not okay. And I feel like show glossed over that, and they put
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
more
because
emphasis.
Well, they need
for me,
to.
if you know it's something that somebody doesn't want, then that's still not consent.
But like in
You
the
know?
show, you have Daphne like finding why are words not working for me today? Solidarity with Marina and being
Yeah.
like, you know, he did this to you, he should have to pay. And you know, and then also Anthony is like, oh, like my sister can't F up this badly. But the Duke rightfully is like, how do you know that it was her? How do you know it was like me and not her, type of thing? But they don't have to go into the full details of it, but there's nothing except for Whistledown being like, can anything justify these wretched means?
Nope.
To be like, maybe she was wrong. It's not just that
Just because he was wrong and she found
Yeah.
out the truth in the way she did doesn't make it right.
Two
what
wrongs
she did.
don't
right. There isn't any of that dialectical thinking, and it just
I really wish that they would have sussed that out. Someone could have had a conversation to really say, you know what I mean, someone in their circle, they should each have had someone that they could talk to say this specific
But they also
thing.
didn't
I
talk
just-
about
I
these
don't-
things. Like
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
think
book
that
and
was
the
the-
movie, the mom barely gave a talk whatsoever. Like it was
I
like,
know.
yeah,
which is
babies
why
happen because of it.
she went into this whole thing like so. And it's like the Duke
Naive.
purposely like obviously knew that she didn't know, because he's the one who also had to teach her about
other
the
stuff.
M-word earlier, which is then he was like, oh, that was inappropriate, we're no longer friends, blah 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 blah. And it's just like he knew that she didn't know, so he did mislead her, but her actions aren't okay, and that was never addressed.
Yeah.
What
And I
bothered
feel like that there was a time that they could have addressed it, but they kind of faded to black on the situation where she's talking to who's her lady's maid.
Rose.
When her lady's maid is explaining stuff, that is a person who has now explained everything to her, and that she could have gone back to and said, you know, I did this thing, it probably wasn't right, and that's why we're in this situation. And Rose,
But it wouldn't have been the lady's maid to say anything, because even if Daphne went to her and said, I did this thing, the lady's maid isn't going to go, that is dumb. She would be like,
she would say,
I understand, ma'am.
Yeah.
She
Well,
would just
I
say,
feel
I
like-
understand.
We're getting kind
Do
of
you need
personal,
help?
though.
But I feel like even for her to just admit that she did the thing, I think it
Yeah,
would,
for her to acknowledge it, she needed to acknowledge
Yeah, if she had
somehow,
some
that would've made it-
remorse.
Yes.
But also, I think by her not having remorse for it just shows how angry and how just she felt everything was a lie. Because they felt they were forcing the other into this anyway at the beginning of it, and that's why they didn't like.
That was the
he didn't look at her.
miscommunication.
They just felt like they were like, I'm forcing this person. I feel bad.
Yeah,
and
this is my fault. And they weren't talking.
And so
I think that when we talk about tropes and miscommunications, I think this is where it works. If you're internally, I feel so horrible, I can't talk to this person. They're both feeling this way. I think that's where miscommunication works, because sometimes a miscommunication trope doesn't work, and it's like, just talk. And they do eventually. They kind of like, I think
the miscommunications in this series work out really well. Like, I don't feel like any of them were contrived, but I just wanted like a little bit more from that. And then on a much lighter note, I kind of like that they brought Marina Thompson in.
Yes.
Like in the book, she's actually, you don't meet her until the fifth book. And
I was wondering if we'd meet her again. I've only read the first 4.
Okay, she's in the 5th book.
I've read the first one. I haven't read any more.
Okay, she's in the 5th book. She's actually the Bridgerton's distant cousin. And
interesting.
They introduce a character in this show related to Marina. Not related as in like family, but like to do with Marina. That becomes relevant later. So if you're watching the show and you've read all the books, you're like, oh, I see what you're doing there. So they lay the groundwork for things.
But I kind of have a feeling. I want to read book 5. I'm curious.
So I just, again, going back to like including more characters, like more than just like, oh, they exist. they've done a lot of groundwork for
Which I love.
future seasons,
And-
which makes me happy.
Yes.
I mean, they needed to do that with the show because the show itself, for the whole season, 8 episodes is just under 8 hours or whatever it comes out to. But it is like a 5-6 hour read for the book. So they needed to add a lot more content in there.
Unless
And
if
just-
you
it was
win,
just-
in which case I
Yeah.
can read it in like 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which,
And so-
if it had just been Daphne and Simon, that would have been a Hallmark movie. You know what I mean? An hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
They could have wrapped the whole thing up. If
By
you
adding- adding the queen, I think, was integral to the whole
I
thing.
love
And-
her.
well, and then also how Lady Whistledown's introduced. Like, Lady Whistledown is up and coming at the beginning of the show, whereas in the book it's, oh yeah, she's started and we're
Mhm.
already hooked and we're already paying her.
So how? Well,
But, like-
we can
Yeah.
jump ahead. But
No,
how do you feel about the
we'll finish
reveal?
overall feedback, and then we're gonna hop into some of these differences.
Okay,
So-
I'm
okay.
sorry I went right into the
Oh,
deep
no,
end.
Fine.
Off the deep
Yeah,
end.
no, good.
Like,
Okay, overall
okay.
feedback,
We did
I
this
thought
a
it
lot.
was good. I like the show. The world building was great. I like how they kept some historical references, but they also they spiced it up. Like, all the color and stuff was good. There were times where I'm watching and it's like a big open scene. I'm like, CGI. Thanks, move on. Like, I know, and I was like, come on. And then but for the most part, the characters, the actors chosen and everything, I'm assuming we're going to go into that more in detail because we always do. But I think it was actually, dare I say, an improvement on the book. All right, next.
Yeah. I gotta say the same. If you heard or if you watched I did a review of season 1, just how light and colorful everything was, gorgeous, and the way that it came together, it felt better. And that's not to knock the book. I think the book does what it's supposed to do. It's a romance novel. It's about these two couples. The book hits all the tropes. It does what it's supposed to do. It's good in and of itself if you are really into the romance genre. But as a show, it just felt fuller. The characters, you're getting all of this backstory. They're being built up. There's things that they're introducing about the characters that you would never have gotten in the book. So it's just very, the world felt very rich.
And
the added diversity just made it more fun.
I was actually about to touch on that. I was like, in the book, Simon has blue eyes and such, and I'm like,
in the book, everyone's white. There's
Everybody's
no
white.
yeah,
question.
everyone's
They
white,
didn't actually
and I'm
say
like,
it though. I think they said for one person of pale skin, and everyone else they didn't get any descriptions for it. So
well, and then
took
they
on-
say cheeks flushed and everything, or turned pink and everything, which is an
Yeah.
indication as well.
Yeah,
But
blue eyes, yeah.
just like with Hamilton and I like history that doesn't hold to there was just white people, but that doesn't matter to me. I never watching Hamilton, I'm like, that is George Washington.
Yeah.
No one can say different. I will picture that man as George Washington for the rest of
Chris
my
Jackson.
life. It's awesome. Yes.
Top tier.
Mini crush. Okay. But the point is that I think that was a beautiful thing. And I think that's what fleshing out the whole universe of Bridgerton and setting things down, the foundation down for future seasons with knowing the books. Also, by making it diverse, a diverse cast, not just with the actors, but even in main actors, but even the what's the word? Even the extras, you notice and everything. They were just as well done as the actors.
Mhm.
And I love that. It helped it stand out. It was making a stance. And I kind of don't like it when we go political, but also we needed this. And I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
So to summarize it in one simple phrase, I don't know how accurate it was in terms of 1800s Britain. I'm sure it wasn't. We mentioned how colorful it was and how bright and illuminating and how fascinating
Costumes alone
Costumes is
in
a whole
color
other thing.
is not accurate. I asked
Right,
my
right.
costume designer.
And that's
He's like, I think the cuts were, but absolutely not the colors. And I was like, yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
well. So the big thing is that it's an Americanized view of 1800s Britain, but with a lot flashier is probably the best way of putting it.
Yeah.
And
so-
it's fiction. You can have fun with it. If it was, it'd be one thing if they're trying to tell a 100% accurate historical piece. It's
Yeah.
fiction. It's based on a fictional romance novel. Have some fun with it. Go ahead and change things up and have a good time.
Artistic license.
Exactly.
Artistic license. Have some fun with the costumes.
Yeah.
They had the queen was wearing the older late 1700s type of attire versus the early 1800s type of attire. And if you look at pictures of the queen in her later years, she was wearing more of the draped on things, not that very cut bodice type of outfit.
But I thought it was kind of fitting because if you
and it makes her stand out much more.
She looks so much
Yes,
like her.
she so
It was just like,
but it makes me think of like if you take anyone now, think of your generation and your parents' generation and then the generation beneath you.
they all dressed
Have you noticed everyone wears pretty much the same jeans they wore when they graduated high school? Like that's what's their comfort zone. And that's what I imagine with the queen is like she's a little older than everyone else. So she's kind of I'm okay with her being in the older stuff because that's what.
Hey, who's gonna tell
Well,
her?
there is going to be a spin-off series about a younger Violet Bridgerton, who's the mom, a younger Lady Danbury, and the queen when they're all younger, and it's how they know each other, and it's how, Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton are like so quick to be like, hey, let's do this matchmaking scheme because like I know you really well, and I know that you raise your charges.
That's what I liked about
the kids are not like easily, and then also when Lady Danbury is like, it's not the Archbishop, it's the Queen. She's like bored and wants attention, or she's like offended, and it's for her to know that so personally. So I'm like, I will say that I feel like Lady Danbury, she like toes whatever fashion there is as a dowager, right? Is that her position? I think
believe
she's
so.
a dowager. I might be wrong. Oh yeah, she is because that's also what Lady
Bridgerton is dowager.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so she.
I thought it was vice count.
So she can be
dowager vice count. Is Lady Bridgerton.
Yeah.
And yes, but she's dowager, but because she's the widow because her son is now the vice count, not her husband.
Right.
So you just have to add that dowager.
Right. Okay. So anyway, she's. She pushes it, but I do think she is maybe more present fashion than the Queen, because I think
probably having the teenage girls, probably.
Yeah, I think both Lady Danbury and Violet are maybe a little bit more present in fashion, but that's because they still have to go to balls and things like that where they're going to be judged. Whereas the Queen is like, you don't judge the Queen unless you're Lady Whistledown. And then obviously she wants to hunt down Lady Whistledown for doing stuff. So it's, yeah.
But I also took that as boredom, not as like a personal vendetta or anything. I took that as like, she's like, I should know all type thing.
At the start, definitely. But then later on, when especially the stuff she says about the prince, I think that the Queen definitely took offense to that. So she then started by much more.
Oh yeah. And then and then she's really pissed where it's like she didn't write about the luncheon.
Her luncheon.
Which by the way, in the books never would have happened because the way that Whistledown, like once we find out who it is, it makes sense that like all the other things were written about because the Whistledown was physically there. But in the books, it's very clear that she also listens to the gossip of other people and then verifies, and it's only hinted at in the episode where like they're getting Daphne out of having to marry Berberk, who by the way is like a complete idiot but completely innocuous in the books. Like they made him a villain. Yeah, they made him a villain for Daphne instead of like what he ends up being in the book, and you're just like, oh, okay. So
all right, so let's go right into worst changes and best changes from book to movie. That was a good one. He was like a nothing burger. Like the way that the way that they're all introduced. Simon to Daphne, and then Berberk. It's it's played out very, very differently in the book, but very similar at the same time. And then Burbrook definitely is more of a menace for the first like 2 or 3 episodes for Daphne. It's just like, this guy. And she called it, she goes, you underestimate his entitlement. Like, even after he's done like shady stuff and she's had to hit him, she punches him and knocks him out cold. He still thinks he's entitled to marry her.
Oh, and then he gets a beating from the Duke and still thinks
he's
and Lady Bridgerton has to be like, you look like you're in terrible pain. Are you sure you don't want to like have this conversation privately?
I can't think of the worst change because like everything was so slight. Because a lot of the stuff I think of in
that was the consent thing was probably the worst because
well, it was better in the show than in the book. Still not good, but better.
Still not good, but
but I think they handled it better in the book is what I mean. Like because what she does is worse in the book, but at least there's a conversation about it. Whereas in the show, understandably, of course, they're going to gloss over it, but it really pissed me off that they did.
Yeah, because the thing is, if you gender bent that situation, there would be an uproar in the show.
Exactly.
It would never, it wouldn't fly. And I think that was an area where they made a small improvement, but they could have done more to improve that whole situation.
I think they improved, but I think there's something that undercuts it the same way that like in the live action Cinderella, they increased the emotional connection between the Cinderella and the prince, but then later on it kind of undercuts certain things that are part of the fairy tale because it's like, okay, if you have this relationship, you don't recognize her at all for anything, like even just the way she's talking, like even if she had a glamour, which I think she does, and they make it clear that she doesn't look like herself in some way or something in the movie to other people, it's like she's talking exactly the same. She's like same cadence and it was so things can be improved, but then also undercut. And I think this.
I'll be petty with the change that I just thought of. All the Bridgerton kids, are supposed to be brunettes, and that's how Simon knows that Daphne is a Bridgerton.
Yeah.
Why the hell? I mean, my father's blonde, my mother's a brunette, and I became a blonde. And my sister's a brunette, but my other sister's a blonde. So I'm just genetics.
Well,
you need to make people stand out, though.
Yeah, Daphne is not as dark of a brunette as the other ones. Her brunette is more of a golden brown.
She's like a strawberry blonde sometimes. Yeah. Like it kind of changes throughout the show. They're like,
but the rest of them are dark haired. They look very much like their mom, and they have a very more similar look than Daphne does.
And that becomes a very big thing in like Benedict's story. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Like that they all look similar.
Yeah. And a change that I didn't like, and it's overall it's a change that I like, but it changes Penelope, is what she does to oh my gosh, why
Miss Thompson,
Marina.
I don't know why Marianne just kind of like popped in my head. And
I was like, that's just a throwaway character.
Like, that's not right. Oh, to Marina. So what she does to Marina, because like you through the series, you just love Penn. She's, delightful. So when she does this to Marianne by outing Marianne, oh my gosh, Marina. I do not know why the name Marianne is just stuck in my head. By outing Marina, she has put herself in jeopardy, her parents, her sisters. They're all trying to get married. She's got there's 3 of them out at one time. So this for this time, that is precarious for them, especially with their dad's financial situation. It is important that they're in good standing. So
but they don't know about their dad's financial situation.
Yeah, but she knows about
at first. Not at first.
Right. I mean,
like everything kind of like comes to a head at the same time. But even if they don't know, I think the mom has an idea.
No, the mom knows, but the thing is that like the daughters don't know because when she's like, oh, you can go after Miss Finch again now that you have your dowry back, and she's like, now that you have your dowry again, did I lose it the first time?
Yeah, they're so clueless. But
Yeah.
they do know that if one of them is ruined,
Yes.
because they had been talking about this ever since they found out about Marina. So
Yeah.
they know that Marina being ruined is bad on all of them.
But I
So-
feel like maybe they were like, to make it more modern, they were like pulling from Gossip Girl, because obviously it was pitched as like, when people didn't know what it was, they're like, oh, it's Gossip Girl meets Downton Abbey, and these
Because
books actually inspired Gossip Girl.
Gossip Girl
Right.
came from the book.
Right. But here, I think
But
to make it more modern, it's like the same way that Gossip Girl went after certain people who, once you find out who Gossip Girl is, you're like, you did that to this person who's that close to you. It's like, it's more shocking versus, and it also shows that like someone can be selfish and completely, you know, not make good choices when it comes to.
And that's what Lady Whistledown was talking about. Do the ends ever justify the means? But we had all these several other situations happening at the same time, where everybody's kind of reflecting on their ends not justifying the means. That was hers.
Well, yeah, but also like she had a trump card on Marina getting together with Colin, and it's like, would you not play that if you also had?
She held on to it as long as she could, though.
Yeah, I think
she worked really hard. You know, Mom, like she doesn't have time. Like a courtship would take forever. Colin's definitely not ready to marry because like he's the third son, and the person who's like the freaking Viscount isn't trying to find a Viscountess. So like his second brother and third brother aren't going to be interested. And like she tried really hard on every other front.
Oh yeah. So yeah, she did. She really did. And I think it was honestly the way it played out, it kind of made it feel like when Marina said he's just not, basically she said she's just not into you, is basically what she tells her. And that's when
but she's like even crueler, but like still true, where she's like, he sees you as
she's
a
like,
sister.
I'm just trying to tell you the truth. You know, she didn't mean it to be mean, but she's just trying. At this point, you feel like Marina is just like, look, I'm at the end of my rope here. I don't have any more options, and you don't get it.
No,
that was my favorite line.
I do think it's stupid that it took her so long to be like, oh, you're in love with him. It's like, no shit.
She
like,
wasn't she's worried about
lived with Penelope. You see how she lights up like on the other end of a ballroom, like when Colin comes over to.
I liked Marina's line
in her own situation. Like she probably has the most severe situation of anybody on there. You know what I mean?
But Marina's line where Penelope was like, but he's a good man. And Marina was like, oh, you want me to be with a bad man then? Like, I thought that was a perfect line in everything. Because it's like, everyone wants to be safe.
We're awful.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the worst change. We covered a few.
Well, so I wanted to bring up one other one. How do you feel about her, Daphne, being the standout diamond of the year as opposed to in the book where she is? Where she's been there for a couple of years. So the show makes it a lot more understandable that she's naive, whereas in the book she's been there for a couple of years.
It's her second.
Yeah, they still don't get the sex talk until like their wedding day. Like that was common.
Yeah. So this was a change that I don't know. I think it worked in the book, but I also kind of like the way that it was in the movie. So I think for each of their parts it worked. But the way that she is not getting guys, like she's not getting suitors in the book because they all know her. They're like, oh, she's like the kid's sister. So they're just not checking for her. But in the show, like her brother is like, I know this guy, loser. I know this guy, in debt. I know this, you know what I mean? He's just like not even giving them a chance.
He is blocking. Because there were certain people who like, they don't specifically say what's wrong with him, but he's just like, you're in my seat. And I was like, does that mean that he was a perfectly good option? Like, and you were just being a jerk?
Exactly. And because I think she gets to dance with some of these guys later and who weren't like total, you know what I mean?
Which I love that montage, by the way.
Yeah.
Of like this guy going, that's a good question. I'm like, this is the rest of your life, buddy. Come on.
Well, it reminded me of Princess Diaries 2, where she's like has to get married, and so they have the ball and she's dancing with people, and she's just like too old, too young, and then it's like, you know, back and forth, and then obviously there's Chris freaking Pine, so it's like, you know, but it's just funny when you see the ones that you're like, there's no way that this is gonna happen, but the fact that she has to waste her time with it,
I can't believe that Anthony would even pick Berbrook for her. Like, I don't care if his finances. I guess he's looking at his finances, and he had no openly known scandals.
But that's all.
Well, like, this guy, look at him and look at her.
Yeah, but
he does not. She's like every vibe she's giving off.
But
is like, I don't.
Yeah, but also
person. She's giving that vibe. 100%.
Marina and that old guy who got the teeth from the battlefield. I mean, they didn't care. They didn't care. It was about status, title.
Yeah, the mom.
Because he says he pays his debts, doesn't have any scandals, which we know isn't true. And like, so by Anthony's standards, he's totally fine. He doesn't care if his sister ends up with like a hot person or not. It's like,
well, in this culture, you grow to love somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything. And then there's the entire conversation Marina has with Miss Featherton, where she's like, how do you do it? And Miss Featherton says the line, she's like, you love your children. You find things to love.
Yep.
Right. And it's
just endure.
But also, even if you marry someone that you don't like, then you have, like, most husbands and wives don't sleep in the same room. They're rarely together because either the guy's always in business, at business in London while the woman is in the country with the kids, or vice versa, where they have to show up for the season to be married, like to show that they're a happy couple for as ever long as they have to. And then, you know, maybe the woman stays a little bit longer to stay with her friends while the guy goes to the country to handle all the estate stuff. So it's like, you never have to mix. So Anthony being like, oh, this is a miserable person for my sister to be with, probably wouldn't have even bothered him had he thought about that, because he's like,
had he listened to his mother, which he ends up doing. Eventually, you know, he figures out, he's like, okay, Mom, you were kind of right on this once the whole thing about Berbrook comes out, because the mom is, even because he's the vice count still, he's the head of the family, so even she has to be careful about how she approaches her own son, to be like, you're gonna ruin your sister's life if you pick this guy that she's clearly is giving off every vibe that she doesn't even like being around him.
Yeah. And then, and then he's like, do you like not respect, do you doubt that I defend you? And she's like, after I told you a million times that like I don't want to marry him, I do doubt that you would have been in my corner. It's like, tough, dude, but you deserve it.
Yeah, and Simon was the same way when Simon's the one who finally had to tell him, look, that's where he got the black eye from. And he's like, she would have told me. He goes, would she? Nobody thinks that she would have told you, because
everyone knows that she wouldn't have told you. And she didn't tell you. Because she knew this is how you would.
Like, no, he's not going to listen. He's just going to see financially stable, no scandals. That's all he sees.
Right. And then I love the line where he's like, I'm resolved to handle things better next time. And his mom is like, or not at all. Like, I could handle this. But then at least he says, the prince asked me for permission for your hand in marriage. And it's like, he didn't agree on her behalf again.
Yes. Like, thank you for that, at least. Which would be harder to do. Like, the prince will like, yes, you can marry her. You know, it's like, no. So that's a harder refrain. So I'm glad that he lesson learned. So Anthony learns his lessons. And
I like that it wasn't just Simon and Daphne's plan the whole time. There was Miss Bridgerton and Lady Danbury playing.
I love that.
Plotting. There was like all these other plots going on for these two. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was great.
I just felt Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton just like, look, our plan is working. And Simon and Daphne are like, they really think that we're doing
It's like they don't like it. At the first dinner all together, and like they're sniping at each other, and Anthony's at the end and he's like, what is happening? I don't want my best friend involved in my little sister. And then there's Eloise, who's like having the most entertainment out of it. And I don't remember whether it was, I think it's when Simon like says that Daphne's desperate to marry or something, and she's like desperate, and she gets really offended, and he's like, to marry. And then Eloise like chuckles like at the other end before getting a look from her mom, and she's like, and she has to school her face, and I'm just like, I love
Which
that.
I did like that highlight of they can hear everyone's conversation. No one's having a private conversation at the dinner table without other people hearing.
I love
but
that.
people are being respectful and
Yeah,
not
and
chiming in.
pretending they're not. Yeah, we're like
We like each other most of the time, and then Gregory and Hyacinth get into a fight about like throwing peas at each other.
But honestly, I was kind of upset, and now I remember one of the worst changes. They kind of glossed over how Simon was just so easy with kids. Oh, thanks for switching it. You know, because in the book they went on this boat trip or whatever, and you really got to see it. And then the great line where when Simon and Anthony both fall into the water, Miss Bridgerton was like, need to comb this over, because anytime a man is, what was the phrase? Anytime a man is made to look like a fool, he will always blame someone else for it or something like that. And I was just like, yeah, like I could see it, because for me,
they might end up taking that line and giving it to someone else in a future season, because Eloise's speech to Benedict about like, if you're a man, you can do whatever you want. If you want to shoot for the moon, just do it. That's actually something that Penelope says in her book to someone. I'm not going to say who or whatever, but it's like, I'm thinking like, okay, you took these banger lines or speeches, because I burn for you is actually not said in Simon and Daphne. It's
the next one, right? Is it the next one or book 3?
It's book 3, Benedict.
It is. Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that story.
So it's like when you do these things, I'm like, okay, now I'm curious what you're going to do to replace that moment when it comes time. Or if you're just going to completely
because it's just the first season. You can't bring out all the big stops on the first season. I'm just saying, because then
some do if they don't think they're going to get a second.
Yeah, but it's Shonda Rhimes and Netflix. Like, they don't invest in something unless like it's going to be amazing. Unless it's an ice skating show, in which case they come out with it, they do no promotion, I discover it, and then it's like, oh, it got canceled because not enough people watched it. It's like, well, maybe if you told us that it existed,
people might have watched it.
Sorry. But best, I think there was multiple. I like the multiple storylines, building multiple characters. I think Anthony still came across a little one-dimensional, just because his constant state of being was pissed off, pretty much like chip on his shoulder. But I know that that's probably going to get fleshed out more in season 2.
It definitely will.
There's so many. They keep adding up. Like, if you look at my notes, I wrote super tiny and super messy. There's so many that I'm like, oh yeah, that was on there too. I don't know. I like the addition of Sienna, but what concerns me is it for next season. There's so much Sienna in this season, his relationship with Sienna, that I worry that how that's going to play out for next season.
But
I didn't check to see if she's in.
Well, I don't know if she's in the second season. I didn't bother to check to see if she was a returning cast member, but because basically everyone knew that he was with an opera singer, and he's not only a rake with other ladies of the ton, that gives oh my god, now I'm blanking on the sisters' names.
Francesca, which sister? The Penelope sisters?
No. The Sharma sisters who are coming in for season 2. Edwina and Kate.
And Edwina.
So it gives Kate even more ammo to be like, I don't want you anywhere near my sister.
Because there is a mention of an opera singer. It's very, very brief in the second book. But the whole story, we don't get this whole story. So this is so that is the only thing that concerns me, because I love their stories. Like, of the stories, 3 is my favorite, 2 is my second favorite. So I'm like, oh, okay, here comes my second favorite. I don't know what the changes are going to be. But we have so much built up for Sienna and Anthony that is just like, what's going to happen?
But I also think it adds more tension, because I think even,
it is going to
no offense to Anthony, but I think even in the second book, he seems a little bit one note until pretty far in, where because it is mainly like, even though you read it from his perspective too in some chapters, it's
what
very
I didn't like though is that when they give him this relationship, when he broke things off the first time, he was pretty like, you gotta leave. I'm like, I would never forgive him after that. Like, you said you were going to look out for me, protect me, and make sure that I was secure. And now you're telling me, sorry, can't do that. You got to leave.
Like, also,
So,
she was desperate. She didn't have someone else as a backup. And then by the end of the season, she does. But
she
I think
that out.
But it's like his declaration at the end of season 1, where he's like, oh, I need to take love out of the system. It's still like, that might still be in his mind. That might still be a hang up, so that it's not all just about Kate being like, stay away from Edwina. Then you could have another reason why it's just another reason for him to be so desperate to marry who he thinks is going to be perfect for him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
Just the change because you add that, I don't like how he dismissed her. I don't like that he didn't say, don't worry, I'll make sure you have some money, at least for the time being. Nothing. He was just like, you got to leave. And then he got, that was just like, that's cold, Anthony. That's really cold. You can't just,
I think it screws his character, but it did do well to like establish the world.
Yeah, and he worked on it. It built it up later, but still, he could have been like, "We can't do this," and done some other things, and still had that struggle of trying to get her back and then losing her because he still broke the promise. You don't have to break the promise by telling someone who's in your bed, "Get out. You got to leave." He literally said, "You got to leave." So what am I supposed to do? You gotta leave.
He has to go.
When I watched it, though, I thought he meant like in that moment, because later when he's, prepared to do the duel, he's like to Benedict, he's like, make sure that she's cared for.
Yeah, but he doesn't tell her that. He doesn't tell her that, and he
I get it. That
he doesn't think she's taking care of. She thinks she's screwed. Yeah,
no, it's
well,
that.
And then
when I watched,
she's the closest he's had to love, even though it wasn't. And so he still thinks he's going to die, so he goes and sees her.
And I think, like, even before I had watched episode 4 the first time, though, like, I didn't read it as coldly as you're talking about it. But, like, if I were in her position, I would also.
Yeah, I can totally understand why he was like, she's like, nah.
I think I gave him a little bit more benefit of the doubt because I've read all the books before, and I'm, maybe.
My opinion was already made before I read the book, and I was like, Anthony, that was cold. And then I read the book, and I was like, oh, he's not so bad. But still, that was a cold line. And at that moment, when she's feeling very vulnerable and very scared, offer her some security, and then tell her to leave. He offered her no security, just to leave. So he could have handled that whole situation, but of course, he was handling his sister not great either. So he has some work to do on how to deal with women who are very nervous about men who are in control of their lives.
As they should be, because men, as we can see, mess up a lot.
Yes.
So
and it might not be a big deal to the guy, but to her, to the whatever girl whose life it is, it's the rest of their life.
So one thing I like, change that I just remembered. So at the beginning of the book, pretty much all dads are dead. Like, it's Disney to moms as Bridgerton to dads. So I like that they weren't all dead in season 1, and he ended up dying. The Featherton's father dies, but I thought it was kind of good because because I also feel like that is a unfolding of Whistledown too. It would affect that story arc as well of Whistledown having something very traumatic happen and such. And also I worry. Here's something I didn't like a little bit. So I like that the Duke had a best friend, and the best friend had his wife and family and making things work. But if
they're also new,
but also if Mr. Featherington pretty much swindles swindles these guys and then gets beat up for it and killed, why is the guy that he conspired with to throw the match, like, is he in danger?
Maybe.
But maybe not. They might feel like he has some protection, one, because the Duke is his best friend. They also might feel like they might be able to use him later. And they can't really prove it because he did the whole shoulder thing. You know what I mean? So they might feel like it's easier to go after Featherington, who's already down, broke, Ain't nobody going to be nobody's going to back him up in this versus someone who clearly will have someone who can back him up.
But also Featherington is the only one who entered into a deal with them. So it's not like
it's not the other guy's fault.
They don't have an excuse, even by like thieves and criminal standards, to like go after Will.
And they technically don't know that he received money for it.
Right. They don't know that
Featherington.
Featherington gave half the winnings to Will.
I mean, you can assume as much because they, if he's going to make that big of a bet, he's going to know that the guy throws the thing.
And then they went to that next party all decked out. They went, but it was the Duke's party.
But the criminals weren't at that party.
Yeah,
so they don't know that Will is now living well enough to give his wife a diamond necklace.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool.
I like the addition of that couple. The new characters or the characters that were brought in early, all good. Marina Thompson added so much depth to the Featherington family.
It
to
being
the mom
enchanted away is a new thing that doesn't happen in the books. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
I liked that.
I'm very curious.
What was it? So his friend. Oh, here's something that was different, that like where the show wasn't consistent. So the Duke specifically asked his friend, "I want you to be there for the wedding." The wedding happens. You see the shot. They're not in the pews, but they are at the like party.
I thought they were in the pew.
I thought they were there.
I couldn't see them.
Okay, I'm going.
I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Go back because I thought that they were there, but maybe I was paying so much attention to Simon looked so stressed out. But I thought that they were there.
I will say Simon's stress, how stressed Simon looked, is exactly what Robert Pattinson should have done in Twilight instead of the depiction that he did of stressed.
Okay, we're not getting into that because that.
Do we need to do one on Twilight?
Yes. Okay,
that would be our first negative review.
That's the. Okay, wedding. Bridgerton's. I have it on mute. That's why I'm watching it live.
Go ahead.
So while you're looking at it, talk about just bringing in the queen, because I really. Sorry, did you find it or?
Yeah, I found it. I'm going to screen share. If you could pop it up on screen, Nia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that was them.
Yeah, they're behind Lady Danbury.
Okay.
I was thinking, if that wasn't them,
you can't see anyone behind Lady Danbury. She's like the standout in every scene.
I know.
It's like Bridgerton. Who cares? Lady Danbury.
And I like that was consistent in the book, like her sass, and then like the Bridgerton sons like tried to get away, and she's like, "Too late, I saw you."
She's a great addition. I love that they kind of melded her into the nurse. Also, they kind of like merged those characters so that she's the one who took care of Simon growing up, where that's not the case for Lady Danbury in the book. She is this feared woman, this kind of like feared and revered woman in the book, but you don't get all of this backstory on her. I mean, it makes you love this woman. I'm like, she's the best. Everybody needs a Lady Danbury.
Simon's. Oh, go ahead. Okay, I was gonna say Simon's backstory. It's like laid out for you in the book, like all together. But I like how they waited till episode 2 when you're like, oh my god, like, and I thought that was beautifully done, where it was like a slow unraveling
piece by piece. It was sad. I mean, I
like the diversity, but there's a line. I have 2 problems about the father casting wise. The actor is great. Here's the problem: when they go to the final ball in the first episode. And he's like he's besieged by all these people, and which is why he like goes to the Dark Walk to escape them, and then he comes up with the plan. One of the mothers, not even one of the daughters, says like, "Oh, I'd know him anywhere. You look just like your father," which makes him like drop his smile. Yeah. And then you cut to the second episode. I almost said second season. That's false. Second episode. He looks nothing like the guy who's cast as his dad, and the guy is the darkest skinned person. It's like, oh, of course, make the villain
Yeah, I didn't like that the whole colorism in TV is
that wasn't cool.
So that's not cool. The thing, because Lady Danbury later, I think in episode 2 also says, "You look like your mother," and I'm glad. She says it's a good thing because the mom is actually very beautiful, and he does. The character actually. In the first episode, he doesn't look like his dad. Simon knows he doesn't. She thinks that's going to be flattering.
Right, and I get that, but then make sure you cast someone who looks like him.
I think that's on purpose. He doesn't look like his dad. She doesn't.
Because that happened in the book. It was Miss Featherton said it in the book where she's like, "Oh, I knew your father. He was a good friend," and he's like, "Yeah, cool story. I don't care."
Yeah, but it's like if you're gonna say that, then make it true. And with Harry Potter, people always complain that he didn't have green eyes, and that's because the contacts irritated his eyes. Okay, fine. You have your mother's eyes. Then cast the mother to either have blue eyes, or the actress can wear blue contacts, or you can do it in CGI by the time your budget is that high. And it's just like, it's not that hard. Her eyes could have matched his instead of his matching the mom's, because you can't. It's just like there are certain things where it's like if you keep this line, you actually have to make it true.
Yeah. But I feel like it wasn't supposed to be true. I think that it was just insult to injury. I don't feel like
something people just say like when you see a baby for the first time, you're like, oh, how cute.
Oh, he looks like the mom, or the baby looks like the dad, because you're trying to impress them or flatter them or something. I don't think that he was supposed to look like his dad. I think he looks like his mom, like Lady Danbury said.
Yeah, no,
I think that she was. I think she said it thinking it would be flattering, and it's not flattering to Simon.
No,
it would be a way to get in.
Reasoning for saying it, but I thought that like they would have known it was true or not, because he was a duke, so they all would have known what the duke.
She probably does know, and probably just still thought that Simon would be flattered by it.
It was her trying to get it in. Like they kept on using his father as a way to get in and have a conversation with him,
right?
So
and no one knows that
he's their daughter.
He hates his father, so it's nothing about saying that he's now the duke, or none of that is flattering to Simon. So the more that people say it, the more it grates on him, the more it's reminding him of how horrible his father is. He doesn't want to be anything like his father.
I just thought it was supposed to be true, while understanding
I never thought it was
meant
supposed to be true. Okay.
That like he's going to take it as an insult. They don't know that. They're trying to make it in it. But I thought it was like, if you say that, it has to be true. Because it's not like his father was a recluse, like he's a duke. So he had responsibilities to make appearances while he hid Simon off in the country because he didn't want to deal with him and he ignored him and things like that. So I'm probably being
actors? Sorry.
Not really.
Okay, so
what do you want
acting choices. I watched this with my husband, even though I've seen this before. I watched it a second time, and I was sneaky about it because he's like, I don't want to watch it. And then I just played it around his vicinity and he got hooked. But he actually didn't like Miss Bridgerton. Like he didn't like the way she looked and stuff. And I was like, really? To me,
I can kind of understand that.
Really? Because I felt she looked the most of the time. Like you could put her in Pride and Prejudice. You could put her like her facial structure, the way her lips are. Like I felt she was of the time the most out of all the characters.
It's more of the character. Like she didn't really, in the book, she was a lot more present. She like you could feel the love in the first couple of chapters, but here those don't really come into play until episode 7 or even 8, where she really reassures Daphne that everything's going to be all right no matter what happens.
Okay, I see that. Yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't have a problem with her visually. I just had a problem with more how they portrayed her relationship with Daphne.
Okay, so it's really more the writing, not the actor themselves.
Oh, yeah. I actually had a note that I didn't say earlier, but it was the book, the dialogue, it was snappy. Let me just try and find it. Yeah, the book's dialogue felt wittier. It was snappy and the banter flowed better. And then the show was just more entertaining and it had more depth to it, but I didn't feel like the actual words they were saying were as good.
Yeah. Though I will say the what's going to happen on your wedding night talk, I liked it better in the show than I did in the book. Because in the show, the mom brought up, she was like, hey, you remember the dogs we had? She's like, yeah, Bassets. She was like, well, no one explained it to them. and they still had puppies.
And then she's like, so it's to have children. And
Yeah.
the mom's like, yes. And it's like, as if that explains everything.
No, I loved in the book where she was like, oh, so you did this 8 times. She's like, no. Oh, you didn't do it 8 times. You have 8 kids. Like, no, I did it more. Like, and then to relive that conversation with her telling Simon about it, he's like, you did not just ask your mother how many times
that she's done the marital act.
It was that part I liked in the book, but I also kind of liked the explanation and
I do miss the rehash with Simon, but I do think it's funnier just to see poor Violet Bridgerton being like, I put this off as long as I can. Maybe I can skate past.
Though I will say in the show, like it's like right before she leaves to leave. At least in the book, it was the night before the wedding.
Yeah, I know.
The conversation happened. I was like, man, you really spent
a little time to digest.
Yeah. Either way, but
it's like I have so many questions, and then Rose comes in. And it's like the carriages are coming, and Violet must have been like, it's like,
yeah. So, but actresses wise and everything, I think the reason they made Daphne more blonde than the rest of the cast of the Bridgerton clan is I think it just aesthetically to be able to pick out the characters when everyone's blended together, because otherwise I confused at first Hyacinth and Eloise a few times until they got more screen time, and then I was able to differentiate. And I bet if Daphne was a full brunette on screen, she would have gotten lost.
And
they shipped Francesca, I'm like, the way they pronounce it always gets me, Francesca off, so you don't have to deal with 4 Bridgertons. You just have Violet, who like she's older than everyone, so Eloise, who's like headband, and then Hyacinth is like not there at most of the social events because she's too young, and so it's like you still have the 2, but they.
Oh, and by the way, the actress that plays Eloise is like 30. Oh my god, I want her skin. Like,
I know.
She's younger than me, and she's able to play like 17.
Well, I mean, if you look at any CW cast, you like find out how old everyone is, and it's like you're playing either a teenager who's like just human, or you're playing an immortal who died when they were older than being in high school age, who's now pretending to be in high school because if you have immortal life, you want to torture yourself with more high school. Like, I don't understand that at all. Nope. Twilight or Vampire Diaries. Like, at least with Vampire Diaries, I see her. She looks like my lost love. I need to spend more time with her. And she's a high school student, which means I have to enroll in high school. But it's just like, and with Twilight, it's like, oh, so because we're not nomadic, so we want to stick around, which means we have to be in high school. But a part of me is just like, you could say that you all graduated early. Like, you're a family who are all geniuses and you have enough knowledge from over the years to back up that story. Like, why are you in high school if you don't have to be?
Yeah. You could have graduated early. Maybe,
Though I have to admit, for them to purposely fail a class would be funny.
So that they have to keep being in high school?
We're going to have to hold you back. Oh, no.
Oh.
But either way, like, that was just something my husband said. I actually enjoyed the cast. I enjoyed the diversity. I enjoyed, I even enjoyed putting a classical spin to pop music, which
I love that.
Like, piano guys, I love them. So this was right up my alley.
Yeah, I love that in general. Anytime that there's a historical fiction show and they do that, I'm like, I know that song.
But they even do it in Vampire Diaries sometimes, like the Vitamin String Quartet. You should look them up on YouTube. They created a TikTok, and it's like barely any of the stuff that they have to offer. They will cover songs just with their string instruments, and it's beautiful. And so they used one of theirs in the show, but then the one for Wildest Dreams is actually by Duomo. I got both of those.
Yeah, and I think they also did it. They did it also in the series about Mary, Queen of Scots.
They did it in Westworld.
Rain. They did. They
Rain.
Would do it in Rain.
I liked Rain until it went off the deep end, as every CW show does. But the Pink Popcast, they reacted to Twilight, but I found them for their reactions to Bridgerton. And when they reached that, when there are two guys, and one of them was like, oh my God, it's Thank You Next. And then the other one was like, I'm going to hate it that like it's lauded for like including pop music in this. And then the other guy was like, no, but it's instrumental as if it were back then. So like us reacting to, oh, we know the song is probably how they reacted to like music that they recognize.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's from the period versus, you know, you're just playing pop music over thing like Baz Luhrmann does in every single one of his movies.
Yeah. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice touch. I know Westworld also did that. Like they did a good rendition of Paint It Black and stuff. But I'm here for it because it's also for me. I like trivia, and so it's like a mini trivia in the middle of the show. I'm like, oh, I know this song. What is it?
Yeah. So yeah, I also really like the casting. Like I can't think of any character, even the characters that we aren't supposed to like. I'm like, I didn't like them. They did great. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
Helper.
Yeah.
And the
I
three
know
older brothers.
Rutledge. I'm like, you're not supposed to like him, but I think he did such a great job of playing this creepy old guy
Very good
who
character
doesn't care about your reputation. Yeah. He just needs to have a kid. Doesn't even really care if it's his kid. He's like, I'm old. Time's running out. I blew my youth, I guess. So I just need someone. Come on.
What was that, Ben?
Oh, I was going to say that the casting for the three older brothers, the Bridgertons, like we were talking about how Simon didn't look like his father, but all three of them, especially the second and third ones, when they would just pop into a scene, I would always get confused which one was which.
Yeah.
You know what's hilarious is that they both share a real first name. Like they're both named Luke. So on cast, they would start like people would initially, when they were first starting to shoot, they'd be like Luke, and they'd both turn, and then they literally just start calling them by their character names, so that they knew which one they were talking to.
Makes sense.
Well, and for me, actually, I realized in the show, I started to think Benedict was more level-headed and had his shit together more than Anthony did.
Yeah,
You're
for being
supposed to.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be the artistic one. You would think sometimes people think the artistic one's the one who's more, you know, kind of like head in the clouds. But he did seem more grounded and more aware of, I have this dream, these things in my heart, but I can't make it happen. And almost this revelation when he's like, go do Anthony finally comes to him and says, go do your thing. And he's like, yes, I can go do my thing.
Yeah, he had to have a plot point to actually be the second in line instead of because he had to act like the oldest for Anthony.
Yeah.
Yep.
I loved that sorry for anyone who hasn't seen it, that he got with the dressmaker. And then I also loved Miss Marina speaking to the dressmaker in French going, I think we're fine.
That was so cool.
I love it.
Yeah, I was so happy though. I was like, I understand what she's saying in French without having to read what they do. It's like, because I was like, oh, my French lessons.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, did she even understand what she was saying?
I know, I'm confused.
She looked like
Benedict says she went back to France, and I was like, did she actually? Because we know she's not French because she has like a lowly British accent when she's talking to Sienna at night, like in her shop. She completely drops the French accent.
Yeah, so the Madame Lacroix is gone.
Right. So did she say? Did she just tell him that like, oh, I'm going to France, but obviously she's still in the country?
Yeah, she's probably going back to the neighborhood where she's from.
And then the miscommunication between Madame Lacroix and Eloise, where Eloise thinks she's talking to Lady Whistledown, and Madame is thinking, okay, she cares for her brother, and she knows.
Yeah, and she's like,
I cracked up when Benedict was like, lock the door.
The door.
Oh gosh.
So how do you feel about them revealing who Lady Whistledown is at the end of the show, where they don't do that in the first book?
I don't think they had to. I don't think that they had to.
I'm
So
glad they did.
if you haven't caught on, I'm getting ready to say it, and we're gonna say it hereafter because we haven't exactly said it out loud. It's got to be said out loud. I'm gonna give
Got
it
real
5,
close.
4, 3, 2, 1. We're actually gonna say it. So it's Penelope. I saw like the numbers drop, like boop, boop, they popped out. So yeah, I gave him the countdown, like it's happening. So it.
You should maybe put a ticker up where it's like spoiler chat in effect.
I know. I
For
need to get
people
one
who
of
watch
those.
it on replay, although they would have dipped out also.
Yeah, I'm gonna say
Yeah.
that full spoiler. I think I put in the description it's full spoilers for these.
But we at least give a little bit of warning.
Yeah,
for
we
anybody
try
who-
to. Yeah.
I
So
Let
what
you
book
have
is
some
it?
fun with the conversation first, and then.
But
yeah.
I think it was fine. Like I could, because what I like about it is that just like any M. Night movie or like Ocean's 11, 12, 13 or whatever, I like an ending where you go, wait a second, and you replay everything that happened up to that point and go, how did I miss it?
So
And by keeping it in the first season, when most of us binge this and not watched it on like a weekly basis, we all did it. And luckily they also did a flash of it for us anyway with Eloise and stuff. And it gives you, because I love this when I'm reading stories, I like a wow moment that makes me, when I reread or something, catch things that I didn't catch before.
Yeah.
And that was the wow moment.
So
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it.
It was a reshoot. They reshot it in summer with the green screen because the writers weren't sure if they were going to reveal who it was at the end. And then they were making plans for the second season. And they're like, oh, we need to reveal it. So they did a reshoot. But
what book is it revealed normally?
Book 4.
Yeah, I think it's the 4th book.
Well,
It's
but we
revealed in book 4.
enclose a lot of things early.
Yeah, but I didn't watch Gossip Girl because I was like, oh, I live with enough people like this in real life. I don't need to spend my free time dealing with their shenanigans is the nice term. BS is still too tame for what I had to deal with around them. But anyway, there was an interview I watched where it was like after the show ended and it was like, oh my God, like how did the cast of blah, 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 blah react to Gossip Girl being revealed or whatever. And they were saying that they had a pilot where it was too obvious, where the first screening of people thought it was too obvious because of a certain shot. And then I was like, because I'd watched that episode. My cousins made me watch that episode. So I then go back and I watched it. I was like, that shot is still in the version that went public. Like I knew who it was immediately without having read the books. And then even though I read the books for this series, I read them so long ago. I read through Hyacinth's story, which came out in 2017. I had read The Duke and I like maybe 2012 or something. So that by the time my mom was like, oh, there's a new show called Bridgerton. And we didn't watch it together. Thank God, that could have been awkward. And she was like, I think you'd really like it because I know you like Pride and Prejudice. And like, here's a description. And she's describing it. I was like, I read this as a book. And she's like, oh, like, I think it's based on the book, The Duke and I. And I was like, yeah, I read this. So anyway, I'd read it long ago enough that, and I only reread the books last week in preparation for this stream, that when I watched it, there were certain shots, especially during the final ball of the first episode, where it's like immediate to me that it's Penelope. But then people have been like, oh, like if you only notice that if you're not completely distracted by Simon. And it's like, I mean, they still go to other people who like are reacting to them coming from the Dark Walk. So it's like, you can't miss that she notices, but you wouldn't necessarily think that it's her immediately. But then upon rewatching, you're like, if you're like me and you're super analytical, it's like they revealed it in the first episode the same way that Gossip Girl revealed blank as Gossip Girl in the first episode, if you're thinking like that. And I think it's probably because I watched all these crime shows when I was young and still do, where it's like I can pick out who it is before they reveal.
Yeah, she was definitely on my list. I had briefly had Lady Danbury on my list, but then I was like, no, it wouldn't be her.
No,
I
well,
never had
sharing her insults to people's faces. She'd never bother writing them down.
Yeah, I never thought that. Okay, I never thought that it was a servant, but I did think that it could be
Eloise,
Lady LaCrue.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know why I didn't think it was Eloise. I don't know.
For the first part, until she starts going.
I mean, once she's like, I need to make a list, you probably didn't think it was Madame Delacroix.
Yeah, Delacroix. Yep. I thought it might be her, but then I said she's the spoiler in here. The one who is
She's the red herring.
Yeah, the red herring. She's the one who is they're gonna really make you think it's her, but it's not. That's where I kind of went with her though. But I knew it wasn't a servant. I'm like, when do they have time? From the moment they get up at 4:00 in the morning until after everybody goes to bed at 11 o'clock, they've got a few hours of sleep.
Well, it's like, aren't you supposed to be the smart one?
Oh, and because of this show, I had to look up what leading strings were. They referenced it so much, and I'm like, oh my god, what is this? And then I looked it up, and I'm like, that makes sense. Now I understand why they're referencing it.
So
I mean, it could have made sense if it were like a network of servants who combined together and they
well, like they kind of like they did with when they were going after Burbrook and like, you know, they spread it
the network. But they gossiped that, and you look at the brief moments that they had to spread that gossip. One lady, they're in the market shopping. She's listening to the other two servants talking while they're shopping. Then she goes to another group and she starts talking.
Okay, I have a problem with that scene because she walks away before she hears that it's Burbrook. She only hears every baron has a bee, and then a bee he sent away even before the missus popped, and then she leaves. So she doesn't know who that's about, but it still spreads as if she heard.
Unless other people had gotten pieces of it and they're like, oh, I know who they're talking about, or do you know who they're talking about right here? And they're like, oh yes, did you hear? So that might be like some cross.
Okay, it might have been a cross-pollination because I was like, there's no way that she could have spread that it's Burbrook.
It's like, oh, the Burbrook story. I just found out what it was. What it is this is what he did.
Well, how would Penelope hear? Because we don't see her. Yes, but were the servants that candid with the people they were serving?
But Penelope was already she's already been snooping because she gets information to be Lady Whistledown. She has also had to have heard information about other people. Otherwise, if she's only writing about the Featheringtons and the Bridgertons, then everybody's going to deduce that it's someone close to the Featheringtons or the Bridgertons.
And also
but
Penelope has to have someone on her side, right?
Well,
because she's being driven in a carriage. Like, I mean, she's got to have somebody.
But you don't get
book
that.
Book 4 does stuff. Book 4 does stuff. That explains.
More information is coming.
Yeah.
I only got book 1 and 2 right now. I'm going to end up buying the others at some point, along with the other stuff I got to read and everything for this show.
Book 4 explains certain things that are either not even hinted at in season 1, or are things that we're thinking about because obviously we're
because I'm thinking about how the financial situation with Penelope to be able to do Lady Whistledown. It makes sense in the book.
It hasn't become apparent.
But it hasn't. So now I'm like, if she's already doing it before her father dies, how did that come about? So I'm hoping that we'll get more on that they're saving some stuff for us to wonder about.
Oh, well, and now I'm thinking.
I don't think the show will ever go into their finances now.
Well, no. I think it will because they've already touched on how much money Lady Whistledown gets. And like, why would a servant with all that money, why would a servant still serve?
Why would she still be
working? So I kind of, I feel like Penelope's character is going to almost save the family because she actually has all this money from Lady Whistledown, and it will help her sister's dowry and stuff like that.
In the books, Penelope is shown to be as bookish as Eloise, whereas in the show, she's like only reading like when they're on, what did they call it? Like when they had the outdoor outing, you know, and everyone's in their little tent or whatever. She's like reading a book and she's like, Mom, can I go like play with Eloise? And the lady does not play. Oh, my apologies. Can I promenade for suitors with Eloise? And it's like, okay. And then also when she's reading a book before, now I'm forgetting her name because you forget
Marina.
Because before Marina shows up and her mom is like, stop, put that book down or stop reading. You'll confuse your thoughts or whatever. Whereas in the books, it's so much more clear that she's almost as bookish as Eloise. So then when you're wondering if it's Eloise, and then in hindsight, you're like, oh, it could have been Penelope because she's doing the same stuff. It's just everyone ignored her.
Yeah.
Whereas Eloise is a Bridgerton, so like she can't be fully ignored.
Yeah, I love the friendships. Penelope's friendship with Marina and Penelope's friendship with Eloise, and I felt the relationship dissolving between Marina, both of them, because both of them have a situation where the relationship with Penn and Eloise dissolves, and then the relationship with Penn and Marina dissolves. I felt both of them. Like, Penn is just so upset about Colin, she can't, and Marina's like, please don't stop being my friend. You've been the dearest friend to me since I got here. I need you. Because she stayed friends with her even when it was exposed that she was with child. She's like, I need you. Please don't stop being my friend over this, Colin situation. And then with Eloise, when she was having so much on her, and she's like, you're just a child. You don't know what it's like to be out. And, just watching the relationships dissolve and seeing how they kind of pull them back together. I like that.
Yeah, like when she goes to like, Marina, can we talk? And then she sees that Marina's like not okay. Like, we're being that worried about her. And then also like the fact that Eloise does comfort her when she goes to her and is just like crying because she found out that Colin's leaving. And, I was like, okay, amends were made.
Yes. Like the way she broke down, I just felt, I'm so sad for you. I also, it was hilarious. Oh, go ahead, Natalie.
My part was the end of the book. The first child born of Daphne and Simon is a son, whereas per the epilogue and the fifth epilogue, second technically, they didn't have a son until after they had 3 daughters. So I'm wondering how that's going to play in, and especially because the actor who plays Simon isn't joining, to our knowledge, season 2.
Right.
I think it's confirmed that he's not. Right?
Yeah, he's not. And they're barely in book 2. There's one scene that they're in book 2. So it makes sense.
But they do show up more in the future books.
Mm-hmm. So maybe they'll be able to pull him back later.
I don't think so. I doubt it. But when people are always like, oh, but he's not in the second book. I was like, yes, but series needs type of thing. So,
Will they
at the same time, no matter what, when you're reading an adult romance series, because young adult, it's normally one couple, multiple books, versus a romance written for adult ages. I don't mean adult fiction as in steamy stuff. But I mean, this is steamy.
There were some graphic details.
It's not the genre that starts with an E.
Right.
It's almost always a different couple per book, and it's like a circle of friends or something, or this person, original couple, someone's sibling or best friend ends up with someone from the other side, or it completely branches off, but then it just eventually comes full circle.
And timelines may cross, but
exactly.
Yeah.
But in the second book, there isn't a lot of timeline crossing unless you only count the epilogues, and then in I think it's book 2, maybe it's book 3 and 4, but definitely in book 4 and 5 they reference book 8, which is kind of nuts. Or no, book 7, because book 8 came out this year, where it's a bit weird, and that's when it's you can't just say this. There are spoilers in the epilogue. There are spoilers for a different person within the full story, but there's more and more overlap as the stories go on. So by the time you reach, actually, I was going to say, even in the second book, when there's a family get together,
the family get together, they are there.
The Pall Mall game, or Pall Mall, I don't know.
Pall Mall.
There we go. Yeah. That game, you have Simon and Daphne right there, and so I don't know.
So I don't know if they're gonna just not have them there, but it's a family.
No, there was a promo image for season 2 with the mallet.
So they're gonna have it. So
they're gonna have that game. I don't know how they're gonna rewrite it.
So will Daphne come by herself? Maybe Simon's in London on business. I don't know.
I've heard rumors that they straight up killed him off. which I think would be really stupid.
I don't think so.
But at the same time, he vowed he wouldn't be like his father, so he wouldn't be an absentee father.
Yeah.
Who's not around for family events.
I'm curious. We'll have
Maybe
to
they're
see.
just hiding the fact that he's in season 2.
So you got the schedule for when we're doing season 2, right, Zara? Because we need to know these things.
Yeah, I just I don't
When is
know.
the release date? Hold on.
I mean, maybe they're pulling a certain Marvel movie trick where they insisted that certain actors were not in it, and then it's like,
Surprise.
you lied.
Well, why single him out?
On end.
Because that's the one. He's the main character that everybody was like googly-eyed for. So
Yeah, we're all like, ooh, what's his name?
yeah, who's this guy? Oh yeah.
I
So
watched
I don't know.
Bridgerton for the plot picture of him shirtless. I saw so many memes of that, and I'm like,
Yeah. So yeah, they're in. But I was gonna say one of the things that I thought was very funny and I liked because they added Marina and then the situation with the Featheringtons when it's found out that the guy did love her and died. That's why he never wrote back to her. And then his brother comes to do the honorable thing. And the Featherington sisters are like, oh, because Marina's like, no, I'm done with the trying to marry people that, that whole situation. She's like, I'm done doing that. You may go forth and live your life. Don't worry about me. And the Featherington sisters are like, oh, this guy, hello, we're here. It's like, I'll take her.
It felt a little bit like Cinderella. Like, obviously they're not cruel to Marina, but
yeah. And it's like,
I mean, they were cruel once they found out she was pregnant.
A perfectly.
I don't think they were cruel to her. They weren't even allowed in contact with her. Whereas
they gossiped behind her back, but it wasn't cruel.
Yeah, it wasn't cool. I mean, they were talking about the situation. They're like, and she's like, that's not how that works. The sisters, they're kind of clueless, but because she's like, oh, well, he looked like, I don't know, was it Colin at the time? Like, well, she's like, no, they'll make some pretty babies.
Yeah, they really will make some like, beautiful babies. Yeah. But when they're performing music at the Bridgertons in the episode Swish and they're doing so bad, people cut to the stepsisters in the animated Cinderella where like one was playing the piano and the other's like doing the flute super bad. And I was like, it's true.
The whole time I'm just going, bless their hearts.
They're trying. They're doing the best they can with the mom that they have and the position in life that they have and their dad.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they weren't meaner, but they weren't really mean. So
I was actually rooting for them because there was that one girl who had a suitor, but the father sent him away.
Yeah, so
because of
Mr. Finch.
Yes,
Mr. Finch for Philippa. They just really went for
like
the
cheese. I mean, they were so cute.
Look, if it works,
We'll come back in the second season.
Yeah, I'm rooting for them.
I'm actually pretty sure that Burbrook is the one who is in that position in the books.
He is. I remember seeing that part in like the.
Well, I don't know which sister he ends up being married to, but it's one.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember going, like reading it, and then like everything coming full circle again. I'm like, what?
Like, wait a minute.
Or like Burbrook, like the one who's like a complete
brother, maybe. Nigel? You mean Nigel?
And it's like, yeah, Nigel, and you're like, if you've seen the show first, you're like, oh, I feel so bad for the sister, and then you keep reading, and you're like, oh, he's completely different in the show.
Yeah, so maybe they'll change that
up. Like it's hard to separate because he still has this like schoolboy naivety, whatever about him in the book, and he kind of makes me think of not to make Twilight references more so, but like Jacob in the book is a whiny 15-year-old that does not know the meaning of no, and he just doesn't get it through his thick head. Okay, like he is like that kid that just keeps on sitting around. You're like, dude, I don't like you, and they go, oh, okay, you might. And keep on
kind of
like,
entitled.
Like, it's just too much. Like, give it a chance and you'll like me. No, that's not how it works. I either like you and we continue to see if it grows, or I don't. End of story and everything.
Exactly.
So that's Nigel made me think of that, but he actually got no in the book, and in the movie or in the show, it was like, well, let's explore what happens if he doesn't understand the no.
Well, in the show, it's like the dangers that we like as women have always faced.
True.
But like, he's physically there in as threatening a way as people in your DM who like will turn on a dime the moment you like.
Yeah,
I just got a DM from a
like
coworker, and I'm like, dude, I was practically your supervisor. I know you're not in our field anymore, but why are you messaging me looking good, Nat? Like, we were never on a first name basis.
Like, no, thank you.
Why you got to burn all those bridges?
What did you guys think about the overall POV, the book versus the movie?
I like this show a lot better. Because the book is basically just back and forth between Daphne and Simon, whereas here it's more omnipotent, where we sort of see everybody's backstory. It feels much more like a community than sort of a narrow focus.
Yeah.
And that's how we got to flush out all those characters and make it feel real.
Yeah,
hell,
I like that too.
I like that we didn't find like second, third hand about Daphne and Simon possibly being seen in Lady Trowbridge's garden.
Yeah.
Everything. Like, I feel like the show did better on who found out versus Benedict coming going, yeah, so my buddy said something. He won't talk. Yeah, well, if he saw it.
Yeah, because
like,
I mean,
that was just.
Yeah, if people are going to be dueling, I mean, I need to know facts. For factual, sure, what's going down. Like, don't be dueling over frivolous stuff. I need to know that this is serious. What happened? I need to see with my own eyes, what's going on. So yeah, I like the POV.
There was the Pink Popcast where it's like, while it's cool that she shows up on the horse at that timing, there's no way they wouldn't have heard the hooves like before that. And I was like,
yeah. I thought of that, and so that's why I like the duel in the book a little bit better and stuff. Like, they hadn't even gotten to their places yet, but we turn and we aim and fire at the exact same point, which I did like the depiction though, because they did get further in the movie show, whatever, 8-hour movie, where Simon, he turns and he's got his hand up.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not even
I don't know at what point they were writing it, but like, obviously they were shooting it way after Hamilton had already hit its peak, except for when it was Disney Plus, everyone had, that's all we had kind of thing. So it's like, we can just do this without explaining stuff. And they were saying like, meet me at dawn or whatever. And that's the Pink Popcast. They were like, what does that mean? Does everyone just know what that means? And it's like, well, we all as an audience know what it means, because he can't wait for Hamilton if life depended on it, unless you just turned off your internet.
Zara, is anybody else losing you a little?
Yeah. I lost it a little bit in and out.
Yeah.
But there's not much explanation needed, but also we're in an age of internet where if you don't follow exactly how a duel's done, Google it.
Yep. All right, guys, we are going to go to final thoughts. Anything that you feel like we didn't touch on that you wanted to mention? Now's your chance.
Honestly, Lady Danbury made the show for me. I mean,
she's amazing.
Stole every scene.
Yep. I fell in love with her, especially, I already knew I was going to like her, but the whole episode 2 with all that backstory where, she's only got so much that she can say to a duke, but that she tries so hard standing up for Simon and really presenting Simon to his father and just pulling him away when the father's just being too much, like, come on, let's just go. Because he's like, he tells her, don't forget your place. Like, you can't talk to me like that. And she's like, and you could just see there's in her face, like, there's so many things I would say to you because you were so wrong. But that she totally just took Simon under her wing, and that everybody loves her and is also terrified of her.
Yeah, because
It's
she's
so
not the most
funny.
powerful person in the room, but her mouth, like she can know exactly what to say to cut you and
Oh yeah.
you know
She could build
tear you
someone up
apart.
and tear them down without them knowing.
Mhm.
Like she would tear them down, and it's said such a way where they look at her and go, "Thank you."
I
And
mean,
She
I just liked
basically
it.
does that to Simon in the carriage, and then she
Oh.
tells him that
Yeah.
he was a fool afterwards because he's like, "Do not mess with her. She's got a
Yeah.
chance with a prince. If you're
she
playing
states-
around and you're gonna leave and lose her opportunity to be with a prince, you're messed up for doing that."
And
But
that's
then
when
when he lets
pushes
her go,
away.
she goes, "Also, yeah, you did the right thing, but also that was stupid. You should have just,
Also-
I mean,
letting."
that's Simon's surrogate mother, so there's he would never talk back to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like when at a ball in the 8th episode, and it's like, I assume you're still planning to separate from Daphne, basically. And he's like, yep. And she's like, you're being so foolish. And like she's okay with saying that, and he takes it, but then also he's like, you somehow hear like every single piece of gossip, which is said before we find out who it is. And she's like, when are you going to accept it? I know all. So it's like she knows what's happening, and she can influence it because everyone respects her. And I think even before her ball, I don't remember, is it her it's in the first episode where she's like, it's her ball, and they're saying like the Danbury ball as the first event of the season is always like super coveted. So it's like,
Yeah.
she's important in society.
Yeah, she's opening up society, and she tells him when she shows up, she's like, "You're gonna be at the ball." Basically, she tells him he's gonna be there, and he goes, "If you could accept my regrets," and she goes, "Your regrets are denied."
Regrets are denied.
And he's like, "Okay, I'll show up for a little bit." It's like, yeah.
And she's like, great. And she's like, we both knew that the mom said no to you saying no.
Yep. Like, that's not happening. Your regrets are denied.
Yeah, I just like that stance and everything. Like it's almost like she would be the friend where you invite I just hit my mic, sorry. You invite the friend out and it's going, "Hey, come on," and they go, I think I'm gonna stay inside, and be like, "Yeah," and I think you're gonna go. Like just
it's like,
yes,
I already have your outfit picked out. We're leaving at this time. Don't make me late for the car that I already called.
Mm-hmm. I gave you a heads up. That was a courtesy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Overall, I think
it was
changes
great.
that they made were great for the book. The additions to the characters and additions that they made to characters worked out really, really well. And I think that's why so many people genuinely enjoyed it.
And I think it also made it exciting because there was probably people who read the book or maybe just read the first one, hasn't read the others. And so this was something new. And even though it is two different media of the same story, they change it up enough that just because you consumed one doesn't mean you know exactly what's going to happen in the other. And it didn't take, neither took away from the other.
Oh yeah.
Still will say the show was better, but I still also say the book has its strengths and is worth a read if someone hasn't read it yet.
Yep. That's exactly
what I would say.
Anybody else before we wrap this up?
Yeah, sure. So for me, the book, it felt a lot more, it was a lot more heartfelt at the beginning. Like I was kind of lost in the show of who was who. And I definitely didn't realize until like the end of the first episode, or even later than that the Bridgertons were named in alphabetical order. The book just outright tells you all these things, and the show sort of doesn't hold your hand as much. So I do completely agree that I did also like the show better, but the book itself had so much more into it, where if you combine the two of them, you get a much more robust story. And you're definitely almost missing out by not consuming both mediums.
Yeah, I do agree. I think if you take one over the other, I do think the show is better and more enjoyable. But I do think that the best way to experience it is to get both. And the first thing that Daphne reads from Whistledown is she loves that we've been named alphabetically, but it's like such a throwaway line. And they never explain the B that like is at the start in the opening credits, like when it's like all growing
the little
or whatever, and then at the very end after the like epilogue where it shows the bee doing something. I don't remember.
It's out at the window or something.
Yeah, it's like at the window and it flies out or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that's something for book readers to like know.
That's a nod to them. Like, oh, we know what this is.
Right.
Like, that's one of the reasons why I was like, I must read immediately, because when you go online, people weren't spoiling it yet because it was super new.
Right.
So people were like, oh, I'm a spoiler for this. And they say, but you know what that bee is? And I'm like, no, I don't know what the bee is. Let me read and find out. And I was like, oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. So I do think both.
Also tragic,
but I don't know whether I'd say you should do one before the other. Like with Shadow and Bone, I know that's going to be a different episode. I definitely think that Angela Ann's advice, where it's like, if you haven't read the books, watch the show first, is the correct order to do it. Whereas this way, I think if you read the book first and then watch the show, you know all the changes, but you feel like more involved in the show. But if you read the show and then the book, you're a little bit like, oh, it goes deeper, but I feel less engaged maybe. So I don't know which way is better, but they're both good. That's not to say that feeling less engaged with the book is bad. It's just when you have like such a colorful show, it's like everything pales in comparison to some degree.
Yeah, like
I did the show first, then the book.
Yeah, I would tell people with the Wheel of Time, probably go ahead and watch the show and then read the book.
I'll do that.
All right. I had so much fun, guys. How did you guys get everything out?
I always have fun.
The only thing is, like, we didn't talk about Granville and that friendship with Benedict, but I do love that Granville is introduced to kind of like build on Benedict's character of the artist. And I did like Granville and his very interesting lifestyle that Benedict's like, oh, people do.
Have I introduced you to my life? It's like, oh, have I introduced you to Letterby? No. My mom's calling for me. Bye.
You didn't know what to do with that at first, but it was very, very interesting. So I did like Miss Granville also. He was great. So yeah, overall, I really liked the show. It's fiction, so I'm not like hammered down to like, oh, this was not perfectly right. I'm like, it's fiction. Have fun.
Exactly.
It was well done. I enjoyed the show. I also enjoyed reading the book afterward. But yeah, I'll agree. The show was better than the book.
I will say, if you listening to the audiobook is not that bad, especially if you can listen to it like 2 times speed. If you're folding laundry, taking a shower, play it over a speaker or something like that, like there's plenty of things you probably do in your day where having it on in the background, you'll be able to get through it in like no time flat.
Agreed. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you to my fantastic co-host and Zara for guest hosting. Everybody's linked below. We'll go around starting with Natalie, quick outros, and then we'll bid you adieu. Are you muted, Natalie? You are.
Every time. Natalie Locke on YouTube, Writer Locke on Instagram and TikTok. I post a whole bunch of random stuff, and right now the big thing on my plate is flash fiction, as I'm doing Flash Fiction February, which I still have to finish today's thing, so that'll be fun, but I'll keep it short. That's it.
Ben Pick, Running to Write, YouTube, Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I work on my debut novel.
Awesome.
There we go.
Zara Hoffman, self-published author of 6 books, a young adult paranormal romance trilogy and a new adult sci-fi romance trilogy, a streamer on YouTube on Sundays, a streamer on Twitch in pop-up streams going forward, and my Ko-fi link, which is down below, is the best place to find me for everything I do, because I'm also the co-host of the Writer's Podcast with Kelly Wright, and I will post updates about that too.
All right. And March 6th, if you guys want to read along with us, we are going to do The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and whichever adaptation you want to watch that you have access to, we shall talk about it. So join us March 6th for that. And we're only doing one in March because we have a worldwide write-a-thon event that most of us are going to be attending. So that will give you extra time to read Dune. If you'd like, we're going to do Dune. It's going to be our first one in April. I'll get back with you on the date. It'll be either the 3rd or the 6th. So if you'd like to read Dune, you have plenty of time to do that because we've got a little bit of a break, and watch any movie that you have access to. I've seen the earlier ones. One of them was difficult to watch, but we'll get into it. It's interesting. So Dune at the beginning of April, if you'd like to read along with us on that. Thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate you all. I had a great time. I love talking about these, and we'll be talking about more. So thank you. Let me find my banner. There we go. Bye, guys.